Hello, and welcome to another video where we're finally talking about Iron Man, because in case you don't know, for some reason, Doomsday is coming. That is right. So I've been wanting to get around to it because on December 17th, 2026, Doomsday will arrive. And I've been wanting to rewatch the MCU movies leading up to it. Now, I would love to rewatch everything, like the MCU movies, the MCU shows, the X-Men movies, the Spider-Man movies, but I don't have the time to watch all rewatch all that. But I at least want to rewatch the MCU movies. So that is what we are going to do. Maybe on occasion, if I have the time, like maybe if I have extra time, like say we get through all the MCU movies and we still have time before Doomsday, maybe I'll get to like shows and or X-Men and stuff like that. But hopefully this should assuming I stick with it and have the time to get to them, will be the beginning of our road to Doomsday. Whereas I rewatch the MCU movies leading up to Doomsday, I will also be reviewing them, and then hopefully you guys can rewatch the movies with me, and then watch these videos, and we can have a discussion in the comments about the movies. And we are starting with the one that kicked off the entire MCU, and I'm kind of excited to talk about it because, okay, we'll get into that. But first, in case you don't remember, Iron Man released on May 2nd in 2008. It has the runtime of 2 hours and 6 minutes, and it made $585.8 million at the box office, becoming pretty successful. And it was one fun fact that I just remember about this movie is that I remember they were kind of prepared for Iron Man to be the flop, because they were also producing the Incredible Hulk, which will be our next movie. They were kind of preparing for Incredible Hulk to be the flop, or for the Iron Man to be the flop, and for Incredible Hulk to be the big hit, because Iron Man was like a B-C list hero. Meanwhile, Hulk was like an A-lister, or at least borderline A-lister, even if it was a high B-lister. So they were like, yeah, Incredible Hulk is gonna be our big one, but Iron Man's not so much. But then it ended up being the complete opposite, where Iron Man was their big hit, and Incredible Hulk didn't do so well. And also, like, it's also just crazy how Robert Downey Jr. truly is Iron Man. Not only just how amazingly he portrays the character, but also even he has like a Tony Stark like character arc, where in real life he got arrested for like some bad things and being an alcoholic and stuff like that. And nobody wanted to give him a shot again in Hollywood because he did film movies before that. No one wanted to give him another shot. Jon Favreau wanted him, and they casted him as Iron Man, and he's been sober and turned around his career. It's awesome. But yeah, I kind of just want to dive right in to Iron Man. The first of 37 movies, I think. Kicking off Phase 1. So just some general thoughts real quick too about Iron Man is I haven't seen this in a while. Personally, this is one that I think I have nostalgia for a lot of the MCU. While this came out before I was actually able to see it in theaters, I still did grow up watching it at home. And I remember I liked it as a kid, although I remember it never being like my favorite as a kid, but I still liked it. So like when it came to movies, when I was going to put a movie on, Iron Man wasn't necessarily going to be the one I put on, but whenever it was put on, I was watching. And I remember being like, this movie did make me like Iron Man much more than I did at the time, because like Iron Man, he was alright, and then the movie came out and it's just like, Iron Man is awesome. I mean, he's still no Spider-Man, but he's pretty cool. And what's cool is going back to this movie now in 2026, it still is great. How many years later? Like 18-ish years later, I think. My math might be off there. And it is still great. Not only is it great, but like as like a piece in a larger universe, but it's just also great completely by itself. Like, even if there was no connected universe, even if there was no sequels, this is a great movie all by itself. which is just awesome. And just rewatching it, I was like, wow, this movie is just so cool. Like this, it somehow holds up all these years later, and it is awesome. So let's dive a bit more into the movie, shall we? Hopefully I can remember to talk about everything, because we actually start off the movie with Tony Stark with the military in Afghanistan. I may get some names of the places mixed up, and I apologize for that. But he's there because he's there. We don't fully know why yet, but we find out that he's there because he's there to show off the Jericho missiles. But then they are attacked, and he is kidnapped. But then we flash back a couple days later, and we truly get introduced to Tony Stark and Stark Industries, seeing how Tony is a billionaire playboy philanthropist. I think I butchered that wording. And how his father, Howard Stark, was the head of the company with Jeff Bridges. What's his name again? What's the character's name? Obadiah Stane. And then when Howard passed away, so Obadiah took control until Tony Stark turned 21, and then Tony Stark took control, but they still continue to work together and make weapons. We get to see more of Tony Stark's, like, seeing more of his billionaire playboy philanthropist side, with him ending up like getting with a reporter for like one night, and also we see him in a casino playing games, and then we eventually get back to where the movie started, with him being taken out and seeing that they're being attacked with Stark Industries weapons, and then he's taken in, he's locked up in a cave. We meet Yinsen, who is a awesome, very likable character who I cannot believe what happens to him. They find out that the people who kidnapped him are the 10 Rings, who come back later in future movies, and they want him to make weapons for them, specifically the Jericho, and they claim that if he does, they will let him go. Although us as the audience, Tony Stark and even Yinsen all know that's a lie. So he starts building, but not the Jericho missiles. He starts building a suit of armor, and when he finally constructs it, and we get this awesome Mark I Iron Man suit. He's ready to break out. So, but the thing is still loading. So Yinsen goes to buy him some time. Tony Stark asked earlier if Yinsen had a family. Yinsen said yes, and he will see them after they get out. So Yinsen goes to buy him some time. The suit loads up. Iron Man breaks out, and we get an awesome action sequence already with him punching up these bad guys, with them shooting at him, but the bullets are just bouncing off. We get a part where a guy holds up a pistol right up to the head. He pulls the trigger, and it ricochets off the helmet and hits him. It's extra awesome when he gets the flamethrowers out and starts burning up everybody, including the Stark weapons, because he gets to see truly the destruction that the Stark weapons have been causing. But then he finds Yinsen, who has been shot and is dying. He's telling Yinsen that he's got to get up. He's got to see his family again. But Yinsen informs him that he is going to see his family again because his family is dead, and this was always the plan. And then Tony says, "Thank you for saving my life." Yinsen responds with, "Don't waste it." And wow, I feel like this was like really well done. I feel like it when you introduce a character for like 30 minutes, I think it, and then they die to give our main character motivation. I feel like sometimes it can be handled in a way that isn't as impactful, just because it's like, well, we didn't have time to get connected to the character, so why am I supposed to feel anything? But somehow this movie did a great job with it. Where I think it's because of how likable Yinsen was, and just how emotional it was with us hearing how his family is gone, and that it was obviously a plan, and him actually saving Tony, because what I didn't mention was that the shrapnel from the bomb or whatever, or missile, whatever, was in his chest, making its way towards its heart, which would kill him. Yinsen was able to take out some of the shrapnel, but not all of it. But he was able to put in I forget what it was that he put in specifically, because it wasn't an arc reactor yet. But whatever it was, he put it in his chest to keep the shrapnel away from his heart to save him. Tony actually, in this case, also builds a mini arc reactor that is meant to both save his life, keep the shrapnel away from his heart, but also power his suit. But back to Yinsen, I think they did such an amazing job at where I did feel it. Like, I may have felt the feels when Yinsen died, and it was like, and we're really with him saving Tony's life, and then he dies, but he wants Tony not to waste what he's been given because he could have died. So it was just really well handled, I thought. And then he's able to get out of the cave. He is rescued when helicopters find him, and he goes back into the city, where the first thing he wants to do is get a cheeseburger, and the second thing he wants to do is hold a press conference. So if they go to Burger King, he gets himself a cheeseburger, and then he holds a press conference where he announces that Stark Industries, a weapons manufacturing company, will no longer make weapons, causing a whole bunch of chaos. We also are introduced to Phil Coulson here, who talks to Pepper and says that he's a part of the Strategic Homeland Interventions Enforcement and Logistics Division. That really needs some sort of acronym. I'm not sure if they'll find one as good as ALCA, the OWCA, but you never know. Anybody who gets that reference is awesome. There's a bunch of chaos. Obadiah tells Tony to lay low because this is causing a whole lot of drama. We also get a really cool, interesting scene too, where we find out Tony has built himself another arc reactor. This one that's more powerful. That could power up a suit better. But he needs help, so he calls Pepper down to help him take out the arc reactor. So he takes out the arc reactor. She has to put her hand into his chest to grab whatever wire piece to pull it out, and then he attaches the new arc reactor. And it was a really well done scene. That's also kind of gross. And also, it was interesting how they shot it too, because I remember as a kid being like, I wonder how they shot this and how they did this. And I found out that this actually, they actually made like a fake chest, and then Robert Downey Jr. like stood behind it, so that, like, it's his real head and real arms, but the chest is fake, so that Gwyneth Paltrow, who plays Pepper Potts, actually was putting her hand inside of a prop to take the wire out, which I think just adds so much to it. That was kind of interesting and cool and kind of gross also. And then Tony gets started on constructing a new Iron Man suit. We get a bunch of really cool scenes of him putting together the suit. We get the Mark II, I think it is, the all silver suit. We get like scenes of him trying practice flying. Another interesting thing I found out was that for the wire work, one of the reasons why it looks so realistic is because he actually did prepare the wires from his feet, which would be like realistic with how the repulsors work. Pushing up his feet, because that's where the rackets are. So we guess it's some very fun moments, like when he's first testing it out, and like Dummy, the arm, keeps like spraying him with the fire extinguisher even when it's not needed. There's one test run where he puts out a low power, but it still like pushes him, and he hits the ceiling. It's a lot of fun. And then we come up to, when he's testing out the one suit, though, he learns something what becomes very important, because one thing he learns is that they can't really go into space very well, because when he finally blasts off and he goes up high to the sky, he goes up, but then he gets too high out of the atmosphere, causing the suit to freeze, to turn to ice, and then he falls back, but he's able to catch himself, thank goodness, and not fall. He goes to land, and he goes right through the ceiling, right through the floor, into a car, where Dummy then sprays him with a fire extinguisher again. The 10 rings do actually find the Mark I suit in the sand from where Tony crash landed when he escaped. I'm trapped. So they're planning something there. Stark Industries holds a party, but Tony Stark isn't invited, so he has to crash his own party, where him and Pepper Potts do share a dance.
Sure don't. Look great, Hef.
But while he's there, the reporter, whose name I'm forgetting, informs him how Stark Industries weapons were being sold to really bad people out of the U.S. And he talks to Obadiah about it, because he had no idea about this, and he was asking if they're selling the weapons under the table to these people. Where Obadiah is pretty much like, well, yeah, that's kind of how we make money, and that this makes Tony very upset and decides to take matters into his own hands. He finishes up working on his suit that he adds some red to, and it just looks awesome. I'd add, this Iron Man suit just looks really cool. At least I think it does, and it looks. I just think it looks great. So then with this new Iron Man suit, he takes matters into his own hands and he goes over where we get another awesome action scene where they're about to. You see like these guys taking like prisoners and ripping a father away from his son. They're about to shoot the dad. Then Iron Man swoops in just in time to save the day. Takes out the bad guys. We get an awesome moment where a bunch of the guys take hostage and hold guns to the civilians' heads. So Tony puts the repulsor down, lets the mask detect who's bad guys and who's civilians, and then a missile thing comes up from his shoulder and just takes them all out. Simple, no problem. He destroys all the Stark Industries weapons that are there. Another epic scene where a tank shoots at him. He just dodges out of the way. Then he shoots a tiny little missile at the tank. Starts walking away. It explodes as he's walking away. I don't care what anyone says. That is awesome. You almost forget how just awesome and cool this movie is. Like, there's just like some great moments, like what I just mentioned, where I don't care what anyone says. It's awesome. I don't know any other words to describe it that's better. While he's flying away, though, 2 U.S. jets detect him and have no idea what it is and are told to engage. This is when Tony alerts Rhodey, like, yeah, that's not a weapon or a device. That's a suit, and I'm in the suit. There's almost a bad accident where he's trying to get away, but then he falls back, and the plane hits Tony, taking the wing off. The guy's falling. He tries to get out, but his parachute fails. But Tony is able to save him just in time and activate his parachute for him. And then we also get a reveal that Obadiah Stane has been working with the 10 Rings. And not only was he working with them, but he actually ordered or hired them to kill Tony Stark. Which, wow. Skipping around a bit, Tony wants Pepper's help to go into the office in Stark Industries to put in a flash drive to steal all the blueprints and stuff of the Stark Industries weapons and stuff. She doesn't want to agree at first, but she eventually does, because after we get a great speech from Tony where she's like, "You're gonna get yourself killed," and Tony's like, I should have died in that cave. If I'm alive, it has to be for a reason, and I finally now know what I'm supposed to be doing, and that convinces Pepper. One thing I didn't already mention is the proof that Tony Stark has a heart, because after removing the old arc reactor from Tony, she asks what to do with it, and Tony says just to dispose of it, and she says, don't you want to keep it? Where he responds with, well, I've been called many things, but nostalgic is not one of them. But then she gives him a package later that says from Pepper. He opens it up, and it's the old arc reactor in a glass case with a thing that says proof that Tony Stark has a heart, which was just, it was both sweet and also funny at the same time. That was awesome. Now back to what I was mentioning. Instead of backtracking, we get what I find to be an awesome and very thrilling edge of your seat scene when Pepper plugs the USB in and starts loading it up. We see a bunch of files for Stark Industries weapons like the Jericho. We also see blueprints for the Iron Monger suit that we'll see later, and even files connect to the 10 Rings. Like, for example, there's a video message from the 10 Rings where they kidnap Tony Stark that Pepper Potts is able to translate into English, where it's revealed that they didn't even know that their target that he hired them to kill was Tony Stark. So now their price just went up. And like I said before, why I thought the scene is just really thrilling and edge your seat and suspenseful is because then Obadiah walks into the room, and there's a part of you that knows oh, he knows he knows that Pepper's helping Tony, but he's acting like he doesn't, so maybe he doesn't know, and then he just Pepper's also playing it off well, I'm gonna act like we don't know what anything's going on. She covers up the USB with the newspaper that's there, and then she puts the lock screen on as the thing continues to load. Jeff Bridges or Obadiah Stane starts talking to her. They talking back and forth, and then he gets closer. she uses the newspaper again to hide her unplugging the USB to walk away, make it look like she's just leaving with the newspaper. But Obadiah's like, is that today's paper? Can I have it? She's like, of course. And he claims it's because, today's crossword puzzle. But so she hands him the newspaper, but we see that she still has the USB. He puts the newspaper down and he looks at the computer where it says file transfer completed, and he gets very upset and he realizes what just happened.
It's impossible. Tony Stark was able to build this in a cave with a box of scraps.
And so then he just goes over and he just decides to take the arc reactor from Tony. When he pays him a visit in his house, uses this like sonar device to like paralyze him, or I don't fully remember how they explained that. It like paralyzes him, so he takes the arc reactor out of Tony's chest and leaves. And he makes the threat saying that he really wished that he didn't bring Pepper into this because he didn't want her to die, and now he's saying that she has to. So now two things at once. Pepper, while leaving Stark Industries, runs into Agent Phil Coulson again, who says how they had a meeting because Tony Stark kind of set up a meeting even though he wasn't really paying attention. And Pepper's like, yeah, we'll do that right now as we walk. So they walk away, and she informs Phil about Obadiah Stane. So they go to investigate the Ironmonger suit, but they just find the Iron Man Mark 1 suit, and they're like, wow, I thought it'd be bigger. But then Pepper realizes that there was another suit in there because there's things that were holding up a suit that's empty. The Ironmonger attacks Obadiah in this suit right here, attacks, and what almost seems like a horror game type moment where first of all, there's an epic shot where where they're like looking and he appears out of the darkness, but it's like pure darkness and all you see are the glowing eyes and mouth, which was epic. And then as he's chasing after her, the camera follows Pepper as she runs, and then we see not only the destruction of the suit running into the stuff behind her, but also him attacking the other agents that were with her and Phil, taking them out like it's nothing and running after her, which was epic. Meanwhile, back at Tony's house, he's dragging himself down to his lab to try to get to the old arc reactor. He gets to the desk that the proof Tony Stark has a heart is on. He reaches for it, but he's unable to grab it. He falls to the ground, giving up, knowing that it's over. He failed. And then Dummy, the robotic arm, grabs the arc reactor and hands it to Tony. Tony says, good boy, and smashes the glass and puts the new arc reactor in just in time for Rhodey to appear, where we get another like really cool scene where Rhodey sees Tony put the suit on and he's like, wow, that's so cool. Tony flies out, and then Rhodey, who isn't played by Don Cheadle, who's actually played by Terrence Howard this time around, looks at the Mark II silver suit. He looks at it for a little bit, and then he just goes, next time, baby.
Next time, baby.
And then he leaves. We cut to the next scene. That scene is like an epic tease, because comic book readers now obviously we are like like I said, 18ish years later. We've had Avengers movies, we had all this stuff, so we have seen War Machine now. But when this movie came out, we have not seen a Rhodey in a War Machine armor. So that was probably like an amazing tease, that like just looking at it being like, next time, baby. Which is kind of funny because technically, yes, Rhodey will be in a suit next time, which is actually pretty soon in Iron Man 2. But poor Terrence Howard is not going to be the one in the suit. So it's kind of like, yes, it's true that Rhodey gets the suit next time, but poor Terrence Howard doesn't get the suit next time. But yeah, I love that moment, even though, like I mentioned before, it's awesome. Now we get our final battle, which, say what you will about it, I enjoy. It is just a robot suit fights bigger robot suit in the city. We cause a whole bunch of destruction with cars and stuff like that. I don't care. It's awesome. There's like a scene that I just find really cool where a motorcycle is driving past and Ironmonger just grabs it, pulls it up the air. The guy on the cycle falls off it, and then he swings it at Tony. The way that was done, I thought looked awesome. Tony has the idea of, even though he's running out of power because the old arc reactor wasn't meant to do flying, and that takes up too much power. But he has the idea of blasting off. He goes up into the atmosphere. Ironmonger follows him. He's able to catch him, and he claims that his armor is better than every way. And Tony responds with just, "Oh, really? How'd you solve the icing problem?" Where Obadiah is like, "What?" The Ironmonger suit starts to freeze up and fall back down to Earth. Tony just barely is able to make his way back to Earth, running on backup or emergency power. He lands, but Obadiah is still somehow being a pain in the butt. He tells Pepper to go into the building to overpower the arc reactor, when he says to push the button, because that will take out Oba and it'll blow the whole roof off. Pepper does that. Him and Obadiah fight on the roof. Again, we awesome images. There's a moment that where his glove, he takes his glove off, but then he forgets that he does it. So when Obadiah attacks him, he puts his hand up to try to blast, and then realizes, oh shoot, my glove's not there. Multiple things that I find epic. There's an epic scene that we see in like trailers and stuff like that. I feel that's used a lot, where Tony like jumps up and is preparing his fist to punch Ironmonger, who's under him. There's a scene, a shot where Oba shoots a bunch of bullets at him, and because his helmet came off, he like extends a part on the arm of his suit to use as like a mini shield and puts it in front of his face. He knocks him almost through the window, but he's holding on. Tony tells Pepper to push the button, even though it could take him out with it. She pushes the button. It kills Obadiah, blows up the roof of the building, and injures Tony, but it's okay, because this is only Iron Man 1, so he's still alive. Where we now go to a press conference where Phil Coulson gives Tony a bunch of cards to say, being like, yeah, that suit was a bodyguard, and it was some sort of test, and Obadiah went on a vacation and his plane crashed. And Tony doesn't really know anything much about the Iron Man. He also tells Pepper that they have an acronym now. Just call them SHIELD, which also was probably epic. Then we get what is the now iconic press conference where Tony's talking, and we get the epic scene of he looks at the card, goes, "Truth is, I am Iron Man." The crowd goes nuts. Cut to credits. Which was apparently also ad-libbed by Robert Downey Jr. that they kept, and this just like completely changed the game of the MCU, because like, in the comics, Tony Stark kept him being Iron Man a secret identities, where the thing was with almost all superheroes. Iron Man, huh? And then they changed the game here with it, and even in the MCU, like I don't even know if there are any, like, I think Spider-Man is like the only secret identity kept in the MCU. That I can think of, at least off the top of my head. Like, everybody knows who all the Avengers are. Doctor Strange is. The Guardians technically they don't have a secret identity, but they're in space. But you know, so like I think Spider-Man is like the only one with a secret identity in these movies. So, and it's just a great line. It was kind of awesome. So yeah.
Truth is, I am Iron Man.
But then we go into our end credit scene where Tony's back at his house, where a Samuel L. Jackson Nick Fury is there, being like, "I am Iron Man, huh? What, you think you're the only superhero in town? You become a part of a larger universe. You just don't know it yet. I'm here to talk to you about the Avenger Initiative," which probably also, I feel like, probably had people going nuts.
I am Iron Man. You think you're the only superhero in the world? Mr. Stark, you become part of a bigger universe. You just don't know it yet.
Who the hell are you?
Nick Fury, director of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Oh.
I'm here to talk to you about the Avenger Initiative.
Again, so yeah, that's Iron Man, and like I said, I forgot how awesome this movie was. There's just so many like great moments in this movie that are awesome. I love Tony's character arc in this movie. Now his character arc goes on to be even better as the films goes on to like complete his character arc in Endgame. But even like just in this movie by itself, it's a great character arc where he's like this, where he's very much like this arrogant guy who's like happily selling weapons because it makes him money. I mean, he has that line with where he goes, people say that the best weapon is the one you don't have to fire. I disagree. I think the best weapon is the one that you don't have to fire once. Where now, but then after seeing the destruction and the pain that his weapons cause, stops producing weapons and instead goes to save people. So even just his character arc, I thought was great, and Robert Downey Jr. was just amazing as the character. So just this movie truly is great, even by itself, and I think it also does a great job at laying the groundwork while also being solo. Like if you watch just this, like you can watch just this movie and nothing else, and it works as a great movie. But it also sets up the groundwork by setting up S.H.I.E.L.D., by setting up the Avenger Initiative and Nick Fury. So just laying some groundwork, and even things that for casual viewers, it's like, oh, that's interesting. There's this organization. There's this guy who wants to talk to Tony about some sort of initiative. So that could lead to something maybe later. And then for the comic book fans, I was like, oh my gosh, it's S.H.I.E.L.D. Oh my gosh, it's Nick Fury. Oh my gosh, he wants to talk to Tony Stark about the Avengers. Like, I just think they did such a great job at balancing that, being a movie you can watch by itself, but also laying groundwork for this bigger universe. So, yeah. I don't think I have much more to say about this movie. Well, and if I do, I just forgot to say it, and we'll maybe bring it up in the next review. I don't know. But, like I said, I love Iron Man. It is so good. I don't know. It still is good this many years later. I think it might be like a top 10 MCU, even with 37 movies. With it being the first one, it's still top 10. So yeah, maybe by the time we finish the phase 1, we'll rank the phase. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, thank you guys so much for taking time to watch this video. If you liked it, please hit like. If you want to see more, like it, subscribe. I reviewed actually all the more modern MCU movies, like all the multiverse movies. Multiverse saga movies. I think I already reviewed. But we might re-review them as long as I'm able to get to them before Doomsday. And please join me on this journey to Doomsday as we review the movies. Next is the Incredible Hulk, so hopefully I will see you guys there. Bye.